Welcome to our deep dive. You ready to explore interaction design?
Oh, yeah, I'm fascinated by this stuff.
Me too. And we've got some really cool sources for this one.
Academic papers, design guidelines, the whole shebang.
This deep dive is for everyone, really. I mean, we're all using digital products every single day, right?
Every single day. And once you understand the design principles behind them, I think you'll start seeing them in a whole new light.
You start to appreciate the thought that goes into making those experiences smooth and enjoyable.
Exactly.
We're going to be covering a lot of ground.
Oh, yeah, we're going to be going back in time.
Back to the 1960s.
Back when visionaries like J.C.R. Licklider and Douglas Engelbart were just starting to imagine what human-computer interaction could be.
It's amazing how much they predicted about the future of computing.
It really is.
And of course, we have to talk about human-centered design.
A cornerstone of modern interaction design.
And how important accessibility and inclusivity are in making sure that everyone can benefit from technology.
It's about making technology work for everyone.
So where should we even begin?
Well, to really appreciate how far we've come, we need to go back to the roots of interaction design.
Okay, let's start there.
And there's no better place to start than with J.C.R. Licklider, a brilliant psychologist who, back in 1960, wrote a paper that would change the course of computing forever.
Man-computer symbiosis.
That's the one.
I remember reading that paper in college.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it was mind-blowing, even decades after it was written.
I know you did.
Licklider essentially predicted the internet.
He did.
Way back in 1960, he saw a future where computers would work in harmony with human intelligence, augmenting our abilities rather than replacing us.
A truly visionary idea.
What fascinates me is that he didn't just theorize about this future, he actively worked to make it happen.
He was a man of action.
Licklider secured a substantial grant from the Advanced Research Projects Agency, or ARPA.
ARPA.
That's right. And that funding would prove crucial in laying the groundwork for what would eventually become the internet.
It's amazing how one person's vision can have such a profound impact on the world.
So we have Licklider to thank for setting the stage for the digital world as we know it.
Absolutely. But it wasn't just about the vision, it was about turning that vision into reality.
And that's where Douglas Engelbart comes in.
Inspired by Licklider's ideas, Engelbart dedicated himself to developing the tools that would make human-computer symbiosis a tangible reality.
He was an engineer who truly believed in the power of technology to augment human capabilities.
He was. And his famous 1968 demonstration, often called the mother of all demos, was a pivotal moment in the history of computing.
I can't even imagine what it must have been like to be in the audience for that presentation.
I know, it was like a glimpse into the future.
Engelbart unveiled a collection of groundbreaking technologies that had never been seen before.
He showed off the world's first computer mouse, a word processor that could display text on a screen, and even a system for collaborative real-time editing, all in 1968.
Unbelievable. It's like he pulled these inventions straight out of science fiction.
It really does feel that way.
And in that same year, Engelbart published a paper titled The Computer as a Communication Device.
Another landmark work.
In it, he made the bold claim that in a few years, men will be able to communicate more effectively through a machine than face-to-face.
A prediction that, in hindsight, seems remarkably prescient.
We live in that world today, a world where digital communication has become an integral part of our lives.
Engelbart's demonstration wasn't just about showing off cool new gadgets. It was about showcasing the fundamental principles that would shape the future of interaction design.
For principles like direct manipulation, visual interfaces, and intuitive input devices.
Principles that are still relevant today, even as technology continues to evolve at a rapid pace.
What I find so fascinating is that Engelbart was thinking about these things decades before the advent of the personal computer or the internet as we know it.
He was way ahead of his time.
It's amazing how these early pioneers set the stage for the user-centric design approaches that are so prevalent today.
Their work underscores the importance of considering human needs and behaviors in the design process.
Which leads us quite nicely to the concept of human-centered design, or HCD.
The idea that we should be designing technology that truly caters to the needs of its users.
Not the other way around.
Exactly.
HCD emerged as a formalized process for creating digital products that are both usable and enjoyable.
It's about moving beyond simply creating a product and hoping It finds an audience.
It's about understanding your users,
Their needs, so
their pain points,
even the environments in which they'll be interacting with the product.
all crucial considerations in the design process.
So instead of making assumptions about what users want or need.
HCD advocates for a more empathetic and research-driven approach.
Exactly.
Tools like user interviews, surveys, and the creation of user personas become essential in this process.
These tools provide valuable insights into user behaviors, preferences, and needs.
And that research is paramount.
Because it allows designers to glean a richer understanding of user context. We're not just talking about basic demographics here, but about uncovering those unarticulated needs and frustrations that users might not even be aware of themselves.
Ethnographic research, observing users in their natural environments, becomes especially valuable here.
It provides nuanced insights that wouldn't surface through traditional surveys or interviews.
This approach leads to more effective design solutions that truly resonate with users.
Solutions that are not only functional, but also enjoyable and engaging to use.
It's not just about creating something that works, it's about creating something that truly enhances the user experience.
Absolutely. And this is where the ISO 9241210 standard becomes relevant.
This standard outlines 4 key stages of the HED process.
Understanding the context of use, conceptual design, evaluation, and implementation.
It's important to note that these stages don't represent a linear process.
It's not a one-way street.
It's more of an iterative cycle where each phase informs the next, leading to a continuously refined and user-centered design.
It's about constantly adapting and improving based on feedback and insights.
This iterative approach emphasizes the importance of incorporating user feedback throughout the design process,
allowing designers to identify and address usability issues early on,
potentially saving time, resources, and ensuring a more successful product launch.
It's much easier to fix problems early in the design process than to try to patch them up later.
This focus on continuous refinement is a defining characteristic of human-centered design.
It's about constantly seeking ways to align the product with user needs and preferences.
Which ultimately leads to a more user-friendly and successful design.
A design that truly meets the needs of the people who will be using it.
It's a fascinating process, and one that has had a profound impact on the digital landscape. Speaking of user needs, let's delve into the concepts of accessibility and inclusivity in design, which are becoming increasingly critical in today's digital world.
Absolutely. These are essential considerations for any designer who wants to create products that are truly usable and enjoyable for everyone.
I'm eager to hear your thoughts on these topics.
Well, let's start by defining what we mean by accessibility in the context of interaction design. Accessibility in design means making sure that products are usable by as many people as possible.
That sounds pretty straightforward.
It is, in theory.
But in practice?
In practice, it requires a lot of careful thought and consideration.
Okay.
You need to think about users with the different abilities.
Right, like people with visual impairments?
Exactly.
Or those who might have difficulty using a traditional mouse or keyboard.
You got it.
So accessibility is about removing those barriers.
Yes, making sure that everyone can access and benefit from digital products and services regardless of their abilities.
It's about creating a more inclusive digital world.
Precisely.
And inclusivity goes hand in hand with accessibility, right?
Absolutely.
It's about taking those principles of accessibility a step further.
It's about recognizing that users are diverse.
In many ways.
Not just in their abilities, but also in their age, their cultural background, their level of technological literacy.
So a one-size-fits-all approach to design is rarely effective.
Not at all.
We need to be designing products that are welcoming and usable for everyone.
Exactly.
Can you give me an example of what an inclusive design feature might look like in practice?
Sure. Let's think about a mobile banking app.
Something that most of us use regularly.
Exactly. For this app to be truly inclusive, it needs to cater to users who might have visual impairments, limited dexterity, or maybe they're just not very comfortable with technology.
Right. Different levels of tech savviness.
This might involve offering features like adjustable font sizes, so users can make the text larger or smaller depending on their needs.
That makes sense.
We could also incorporate voice commands for navigation, so users who have difficulty using the touchscreen can still easily access the app's features.
And clear, concise instructions that are easy for everyone to understand, regardless of their technical expertise.
Exactly. It's about anticipating the needs of a diverse user base and providing flexible solutions that adapt to those needs.
I love that idea, adaptive design.
It's about making technology work for everyone, not just a select few.
creating a more equitable and user-friendly digital landscape.
where technology empowers rather than excludes.
That's a powerful thought. This conversation about user needs has got me thinking about a key aspect of interaction design,
Okay, what's that?
the balance between usability goals and user experience goals.
Ah, yes, the classic usability versus UX debate.
They're related concepts, but not always synonymous.
Definitely not. Usability is all about how easy and efficient it is to use a product.
Can the user figure out how it works?
Can they complete tasks quickly and easily?
Can they remember how to use it after a period of time?
And can they use it without making too many errors?
Those are the key usability goals.
Making sure that a product is functional and straightforward to use.
Practicality is key.
But user experience, UX, goes beyond the purely functional.
It's about the overall feeling a user has while interacting with a product.
Their emotional responses, their aesthetic perceptions, their overall satisfaction or enjoyment.
So a product can be highly usable,
Easy to use, efficient, all that.
but still lack a compelling user experience.
Absolutely. It might be functional, but if it's not enjoyable to use, people won't want to use it.
It's like the difference between a car that gets you from point A to point B.
And a car that makes you feel good while you're driving it.
One is purely functional, the other provides an experience.
Exactly. And for interaction designers, finding the right balance between usability and UX is an ongoing challenge.
It's like walking a tightrope,
It requires a deep understanding of human psychology
an appreciation for aesthetics.
and a commitment to creating products that are both functional and delightful to use.
It's about understanding that people don't just use products, they experience them. And those experiences can have a profound impact on their lives.
Do you have any examples of products that you think strike that balance particularly well?
Let's take a fitness tracker as an example.
Something that's become increasingly popular in recent years. From a usability standpoint, a fitness tracker needs to be easy to use, it needs to provide accurate data, and it needs to have clear instructions.
The basics.
But to create a truly engaging user experience, designers might incorporate elements of gamification.
Like challenges and rewards.
Exactly. Or personalized feedback that helps users stay motivated.
Or even social features that allow users to connect and compete with friends.
All of these elements can enhance the user experience.
Transforming the fitness tracker from a purely functional device into something that's actually fun to use.
And when something is fun to use, people are more likely to stick with it.
Which, in the case of a fitness tracker, can lead to positive health outcomes.
Exactly. It's a win-win situation.
Good design can make a real difference in people's lives.
It can. And that's what makes interaction design such a fascinating and rewarding field.
We've talked about the history of interaction design, the human-centered design process, the importance of accessibility and inclusivity, and the delicate balance between usability and user experience.
We've covered a lot of ground.
And yet, I feel like we've only just scratched the surface.
There's always more to learn.
Always more to explore.
So, what other key principles guide interaction designers in their quest to create those positive user experiences?
Well, one of the most fundamental principles is visibility. What that means is that the most important functions of a product should be readily apparent to users.
Okay, so it's not about hiding things away in menus or submenus.
Exactly. A good example is a website's navigation menu. If the menu is well organized and the labels are clear and easy to understand, then users can easily find the information they need.
Makes sense. So visibility is all about making things easy to find and understand.
Right. It's about reducing that cognitive load on the user so they don't have to waste time and energy figuring out how things work.
So what about feedback? I've heard that term a lot in the context of design, but I'm not always sure what it means.
Feedback is crucial in interaction design. It's all about giving users clear indications of what's happening in response to their actions. Can you give me an example?
Sure. Think about when you click a button on a website. Does the button change color? Or maybe there's a loading animation that appears. These are all examples of feedback. They let the user know that their action has been registered and that something is happening.
So it's about providing reassurance to the user, preventing that feeling of, did it even work?
Exactly. Good feedback can significantly enhance the user experience by reducing uncertainty and giving the user a sense of control.
Okay, that makes sense. What about constraints? That sounds a bit counterintuitive. Don't we want to give users as much freedom as possible?
Not always. Sometimes too much freedom can be overwhelming. When users are faced with too many choices, it can lead to decision paralysis and frustration.
So constraints are actually about simplifying things for the user.
Exactly. By limiting choices and preventing errors, we can make the experience more streamlined and enjoyable.
It's about providing a clear path for the user, guiding them through the interaction without bogging them down with unnecessary options.
You got it. And this ties into another key principle: consistency.
Consistency.
Using familiar patterns and elements throughout the interface. If a user learns how to do something in one part of the application, they should be able to apply that same knowledge in another part of the application.
So it's about making the interface predictable.
Precisely. Consistency reduces cognitive load and makes the experience more user-friendly. If the save icon is a floppy disk in one part of the software, it shouldn't suddenly become a cloud icon in another section.
Right, that would just be confusing. Speaking of making things intuitive, what about affordance? I've heard that term, but I'm not entirely sure what it means in a design context.
Affordance is all about making sure that design elements intuitively suggest how they can be used. A button should look like it can be pressed. A slider should look like it can be dragged. The form of an object should suggest its function.
So it's about making the interface self-explanatory so users don't have to guess how things work.
Exactly. And all these principles we've been talking about, visibility, feedback, constraints, consistency, and affordance, they all work together to create intuitive, enjoyable, and effective user experiences.
They're like the building blocks of good interaction design.
I like that analogy.
It's fascinating to see how these principles can be applied to such a wide range of digital products and services.
From websites and apps to physical devices and even virtual reality experiences.
Interaction design is everywhere. But the world of technology is constantly changing, and the challenges facing interaction designers are evolving as well. What are some of the trends you're seeing in the field?
One of the biggest trends is the rise of the Internet of Things, or IoT, where everyday objects are becoming increasingly connected.
That's right. We're surrounded by smart devices these days.
And this interconnectedness presents new challenges for interaction designers. We have to think about how users interact not just with a single device, but with an entire ecosystem of devices.
So it's a much more complex design challenge.
Absolutely. And then there's the growing integration of artificial intelligence and machine learning, or AI and ML, in design.
AI is everywhere these days. It's hard to imagine a field that's not being impacted by it.
And interaction design is no exception. AI and ML are giving designers new tools to personalize user experiences in ways that were never before possible.
That sounds amazing, but it also raises some concerns, right?
Of course. As with any powerful technology, we need to be mindful of the ethical implications.
It's easy to get carried away with the possibilities and forget about the potential downsides.
We need to be careful about how we use these technologies. The goal should always be to empower users, giving them control over their digital experiences.
It's a reminder that good design isn't just about aesthetics or functionality. It's about responsibility.
Absolutely. As interaction designers, we have a responsibility to create technology that serves humanity in a positive way.
It's been an incredibly insightful conversation. We've covered so much ground, from the historical roots of interaction design to the emerging challenges of the future.
I've enjoyed our discussion. It's always inspiring to talk about the power of design to shape the world around us.
I completely agree. As we wrap up this deep dive into interaction design, I'm left feeling hopeful. There are so many talented and passionate people working to create a better future through design.
It's an exciting time to be in this field, and I encourage everyone listening to pay attention to the design choices they encounter in their daily lives. Good design can make a real difference.
So true. Well, that's all the time we have for today. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the fascinating world of interaction design.
It's been a pleasure.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep designing for a better future.